Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Well, people, this is impromptu. And it's obviously going to be something that I do. Let's see if we can get the volume down there. It's something I'm going to be doing old school as well. There was no warnings that went out, and you know how it works with the notification system, so we'll see whether or not we get anybody here. But the truth of the matter is, the reason that I am doing this video, let me see here, sorry. The reason that I'm doing this video more than any other is there are some things that I wanted to say after the interview we did with Rip Curl yesterday. Great interview. Just an amazing interview. And there were some things that came up in that interview that I think are important to address. And to be really honest with you, it's just a whole lot easier if I come here and do it live, which is how we do most things anyway, versus trying to film it, get it over to Mark to get edited and put together and all of that. I think it's probably just going to expedite issues if I just do it live. So good Saturday morning, crew. The interview we did with Rip Curl yesterday, I got a great response to that. One of the best responses. I was watching that interview since I missed it on the live. Okay, good to see you, Miss Hermit Hill, Kentucky. Glad that you're here. We got an amazing response to that video. And I would say about 99% of it was really, really positive. And 1% is great for us because usually there's going to be that contingent that just based on the fact that it was me are going to take some issues with it. But the negative came from people that are not really up on medical assisted treatment, and they take the normal stance that unless you're in pain and suffering, then you're not sober. So those people, I toss those out with the rest of the stuff that just doesn't need to be looked at. But some issues were brought up, and it got me doing some research. I talk all the time on the statistics on opiate overdoses in the U.S., drug overdoses, but primarily opiates are what are killing the most people. And I quote them constantly. We talk about the fact that over 100,000 people annually are already dying now, and we talk about how that works out to be about 125 empty houses a day in the United States every single day. I talk about all of the different things sort of that contribute to this. Also, the numbers are consistently going up. They run it on a fiscal time from month to month, right? So it would be from March of 20 to March of 21, and then from April of 20 to 21. And one of the things that really sort of jumped out at me, because I started to take a look at what some of the states are doing to try to treat, as opposed to trying to prevent, because I go off on rants about how the government is allowing opiates onto our street as if they're legal. And I've spent a lot of time going down that rabbit hole and ranting and screaming at the government. What's distressing people is in the time of the pandemic and everything we have going on here, a lot of states are cutting treatment as one of the first things that gets cut out of the budget. And this is distressing. The little state that I grew up in, right, University of Vermont, little state that I grew up in, it's one of the smallest states in the union. A few years back, they actually had more cows living in that state than they had people. It's a teeny state. Most big cities in the U.S. have 3 or 4 times the population of the state of Vermont. But they actually are leading the nation in terms of the number of drug overdoses when it comes to how much it has grown from one year to the next. They had a 57% increase in drug overdose deaths. And this is in a place where if you went back a decade, they had never had a heroin bust. There had never been anybody busted for heroin. And as I started to go deeper into some of these statistics, I found out that the Drug Enforcement Agency last fiscal year, right, seized 10 million fraudulent pills that were made with fentanyl and, basically being done on a pill press in a garage or in a warehouse. And these were counterfeit name brand drugs that the DEA managed to seize. 10 million pills. By their own admission, and by the statistics that they put out, normally they're lucky if they can get about 5% of what is being smuggled. 5%. So if you think that 95% more than 10 million of those pills hit the street, it's no shock that this is happening at the rate that it's happening. And it works out to be in the ballpark of about 300 people a day. What frightened me as I started to go down this rabbit hole a little deeper was the fact that the way that these statistics are kept are really deceptive. And as frightening as these numbers are, if these numbers were real, they would be terrifying. Because there is a whole host of things that are never going to make it into this. There is a tragedy that was brought up here on one of the live feeds the other day by Mr. M. Hunt. And he talked about how alcohol, caused a friend of his to murder a family member, shoot them. And you know what, people? That is a death attributed to drugs. That isn't going to make that statistic. You understand? Another thing that I found out is if there's an inquiry, there's a reporting window of about this big. So if somebody goes in and there's a drug overdose and you have a coroner's inquest and there is a period of time that they research what's going on with the overdose, or with the death rather, that's not going to make it into the statistics. Now, they claim to try to adjust for things like that happen, but what it really boils down to is they don't have a clue. The number of people that are actually dying in this country because of drug overdoses is off the charts. And I'm not going to spend the rest of this time talking about that, because what I really want to talk about is things that can be done to actually help this. Yesterday, Rip did an amazing job of giving us a beautiful picture of what medical assisted treatment was a decade ago compared to what medical assisted treatment is today. And obviously, it's as far away as night is from day in terms of the change. At this point now, there is a much better chance that someone is going to get legitimate, no joke help, and have the ability to do it without people treating them like lepers or like there's something wrong with them. However, there's still a big gap, and here's where the gap comes in. And here's where people can actually get involved and do things. A lot of people have a family practitioner, an FP, right? This is the doctor that you go to all the time. This is the doctor that you take to, your children to. This is the doctor you go to if you injure yourself or if you have a cold or whatever. Those doctors, as we said yesterday, can't write a prescription for buprenorphine in any of its forms. They can't. They have to go through an additional amount of training in order to be able to do that. That is something that probably needs to be addressed. More often than not, people are far more comfortable talking to a family practitioner, talking to somebody that is their normal doctor. Hello, cemetery, good to see you. Talking to your family doctor is probably the best case scenario. But they have this thing called MOUD, right, which is medication for opiate use disorder, MOUD. Charlie Murphy, good to see you. What ends up happening, people, is they're making it so difficult for doctors to treat this that very oftentimes, as we have talked about many times here at the Lifeboat, the window for treatment is small. When somebody says, this is it, I want to get sober, I want to change my life, that window of them being excited about the prospect of getting sober, that window closes very, very quickly. And very oftentimes, especially with opiates, the closer you get to the next prescription, right, the faster that window starts to close. So by these individuals not having an opportunity to say to their doctor, I'd like to talk to you about, medical assisted treatment. To look at your doctor in the eye and say, I think I have a drug problem. I'm abusing prescription pain meds, or I'm getting opiates on the street, or whatever the case may be. To have a medical practitioner, to have somebody that is trained to help people, who takes the Hippocratic Oath, right? To make sure that they're going to do no harm and that they're there to always help the patient. They're going to look this person in the eye and say, yeah, nothing I can do. There is no reason for this. There really isn't. It's a waiver, people. The amount of education that is necessary for a doctor to be able to write these prescriptions is actually quite small. But they need to streamline this process, and they need to make it so that more doctors are trained in MOUD, the evidence-based treatment, right? There's a reason it's called evidence-based treatment. And the reason it is because there is already a mountain of evidence to show that medical-assisted treatment for, in particular, opiate use disorder has amazing results. In fact, nothing touches it. In terms of statistically speaking, there is nothing out there that is giving people hope like this. And they're restricting doctors from being able to do it. So the doctor then has to give the patient a referral to someone else. And very often from I want to get help to here's the name of the person that you need to go see, that goes away. That excitement, that when somebody gets up the courage to say to their doctor, hey, I think I need help, you're asking for a whole new level of courage and a different level of commitment to walk out of the office and say, I'm going to get sick for another day or another 2 days or whatever the case may be before I go see this person. Very oftentimes, by the time the person says to their family practitioner, I think I need help, they're already in withdrawal. They're in pain. And you heard it described yesterday beautifully, by the way, by Rip Curl. And that pain, that unbelievable feeling. This is a guy that said, I don't have an addictive personality. This is not a road I went down. Hey, Vivian, good to see you. That's not a road that this guy went down, but he found himself deep in the mix of it. So to say you're going to have to go 2 more days, realistically, most addicts will say, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be sick that entire time, so I'm going to take drugs. I'm going to get well, not get high, but I am going to get well. Aloha, sorry folks, tsunami trumps your lifeboat. Goodbye all. You know something? If there's there's something else going on, feel free. God bless you. From what I've heard on that tsunami, the people were very lucky, and it could have been, considerably worse than it is. I'm not downplaying this at all. The pictures of it from outer space were nothing less than terrifying. And there have been memes and jokes and things already about this, and how cool that image was. I don't see anything cool about that image. To me, that's terrifying. That is very close to an island that has a very large population of people on that, and yeah. But please feel free, go read everything that you're going to read. I'll be here. This is going up and it's recorded, so do what you do. No hard feelings. I completely get it. This will be here forever. Once we post one of these things, it stays here. But people, this is something that you can actually do something about. There are petitions and things online. There are all kinds of ways that you can reach out and say, you know what? Doctors need to be able to prescribe this. Doctors need to be able to treat their patients, especially since the number one cause of death from 18 to 45 is something that now doctors are not allowed to treat. Does that make any sense to anybody? I promise you, it doesn't make any sense to me. And this is near and dear to my heart because Suboxone saved my life, right? Absolutely no question whatsoever. This saved my life. So I look out at these people and I say, this is something that you can't take the largest threat of death medically on the planet and then tell people that they're not allowed to treat it. That's really what's going on. And that's something that we need to do something about. I'm probably going to put together something so that all you have to do is come to the lifeboat and click on a link. We're going to try to get that up, but I wanted to get this message out before all of you forgot about the interview, because it happens. I mean, it's a great interview, but you know how it is, right? Social media, perfect example. Really important things happen in the world, and the next thing you know, you forget everything. Suboxone has mixed reviews because it's just as addicting. Vivian, I'm glad that you said that, because the truth of the matter is, when people say it's just as addicting, there's simply no truth to that. There really isn't. Now, I'm not saying it's not an addicting substance. It absolutely is. But for use with opiate use disorder, because of how this drug works, right? It is a partial agonist and an antagonist. It does something completely different in the body than regular opiates. Completely different. Is it addicting? Absolutely. Will people need to be on it? Yeah, they will. But for a great number of people, the option is being on this or being on the other. Because the statistics say that, 99 out of 100 women and 98 out of 100 men aren't going to get off of opiates. Once you have achieved opiate use disorder, you have a 1 or a 2% chance of actually beating it. So given the other option of a substance that's taken just like somebody would take insulin, or just like somebody would take amlodipine, or somebody would take a heart medication or any other medication, this is one of the biggest problems that we have with medical assisted treatment, is that there are preconceived notions that the world has. And more often than not, these are people that don't have the illness. They don't have this addiction. So they look at it and say, so this is just somebody getting high again, and the medicine is being given to them, by a doctor. How is that any better? Number one, this is something that somebody takes once a day and forgets about it. And what this does, what Mark Wages did a beautiful job of describing this, and doctors will back this up. You can talk to the people that study this and prescribe it. But what happens is it gets an addict to baseline. It doesn't get an addict to high. And very often, that's all that heroin is doing at the end. I was doing 6.5 to 7 grams of heroin a day. And the only thing that was doing was getting me to a baseline. I wasn't getting high. I wasn't walking around looking wasted. People, I film every single time you see me come on here, I'm on Suboxone. Every time. You're never going to see me filming when I'm not. In fact, for me, I've got about another 4 years before I would make a decision on whether or not this is something I'm going to step off of. At this point, my heart tells me that I'm probably going to just take this medication every day for the rest of my life. And the reason is 30 years of abusing heroin on a daily basis has left, Plato said that men are born with a God-shaped void, and that we fill our soul with God. Now, whether you believe or you don't believe, the illustration is good, because one of the best descriptions I've heard is that people with opiate use disorder are born with, or develop, however you want to view it, they develop a hole in the soul or the heart or the mind or whatever, and that hole needs to be filled with opiates. And there's only a couple of different ways that can happen. One of them is life-threatening. One of them is life-threatening, and not just from overdose, but from all of the other things that are associated with it. You need a whole segment on Suboxone, like a class. Well, you know what, Vivian, I've done probably 5 or 6 of them. And I do it very often. I'm kind of doing it now, in all honesty. But this drug and there's something that everybody needs to understand about this. One of the reasons that it will get bad press is very similar to, like, yesterday when we did the interview with Rip. Rip talked about the fact that he had been put on Ritalin, and he had been put on there to treat narcolepsy, right? The thing with Ritalin is, if you have ADHD, right? If you have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and you take Ritalin, it allows the mind, which is usually going in 70 directions, to focus down onto one. And it gives people the opportunity to focus, and it has a very calming effect. So take 2 people, put them in a room. Give both of them 5 to 15 milligrams of Ritalin, depending on their size. One has ADHD, one doesn't. It is going to calm one down amazingly, right? Almost looks like they took a benzo. It almost looks like they took a tranquilizer. You give it to the other one, and they go bing, 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 and they bounce off the walls like there's no tomorrow. Because what it does is it treats something in the brain that is only treated. It's very unique to people who have ADHD. What amphetamine does to them is 100% opposite of what it does to other people. And I have also watched the other side of that phenomenon. I knew a girl when I was in Texas that had ADHD brutally. And what she took was, it goes Ritalin, it goes Adderall, it goes Dexedrine, and then it goes Disoxin. And Disoxin is the top of the food chain for treating people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It is a very, very strong speed. And she used to get prescriptions for this. Didn't like the feeling of being, tranquilized. So at the time, she would trade them for Valium, because Valium basically would do to her what Ritalin would do to someone else. And it was a fascinating thing to look at because of the imbalance of chemicals in the brain. Drugs sometimes do things to one person that it would never do to another. And that's why medical assisted treatment works for some people and not others. That being said, if I were to take the prescription dose that I have of Suboxone and I would give it to somebody who has never done opiates in their life, never abused them, never took them, never did anything, and I gave them my dose, the effect that my prescription would have on that person would be really, really obvious. This would be somebody that would, first of all, they would get sick, very much like somebody who took too many opiates would. It is a very strong opiate. It's not a real opiate, and truthfully, what it does is it makes the brain believe that it's on an opiate, but it's just like, when we talk about psychosomatic pain, well, the pain's not real, it's psychosomatic. It doesn't matter. When they say it's not real, what they mean is there's no trauma causing it. Yes, you saw that meow. When I film, she likes to come here and chill in the basket, which is good because it keeps her from tearing the house apart. But the effect that this drug has on people that have never done it are completely different. The psychosomatic pain, not real. Pain is a chemical reaction in the brain, whatever causes it. If your brain decides to manufacture it by doing the exact same thing that would happen when you hit yourself in the thumb with a hammer, one way or the other, you're feeling the same pain. Whether or not that occurred, the brain makes you think it does. Well, that's what happens with Suboxone. The brain, the Suboxone goes in. Think of your fingers as the opiate receptors at the bottom of your brain. Normally, opiates come by and they attach there. And when they do, that takes it in, and that's what gets you the pain relief, and it also is what gets you the narcotic effect. Suboxone goes along and coats all of those receptors. In the process, two things happen. Number one, it tells the brain they've got opiates in their body. And it tells the brain that there's a lot of opiates in the body. So that voice, we don't truthfully hear, we don't hear voices, but that calling, that craving, that unbelievable feeling that only goes away when you feed it with drugs, that craving stops instantly. The second thing that happens is once that receptor is coated, nothing else is going to stick to it. You understand? So now if that person decides, you know what, this is an awful day, I think I'd like to get high, it's not an option. It's not an option. Because if they try to take opiates, they're going to come up and bounce off of the receptor and nothing is going to happen. And then a side note is that buprenorphine, which is what Suboxone is, buprenorphine, each time they give you 2 milligrams of buprenorphine, they're going to put in 0.5 milligram of naloxone, which is Narcan. And what that does is it makes sure that if you do any other opiate, you do any other painkiller of any kind, and you're going to get sick. And you're going to get a kind of sick that is, for lack of a better way to put it, exquisite. It's going to be a kind of withdrawal sickness that the average drug user will never feel in their life. It is going to cause precipitative withdrawal. And it is something that most addicts will mess up and try once. They'll think, I did a little Suboxone today, but you know what? So-and-so's got a couple of OxyContin 80s, so I think I'll eat them because I just want to get high. And boom, they eat those. They will never do it again. The beautiful thing about Suboxone in long-term treatment is if you want to have a relapse, you have to plan it 4 days ahead of time. You need a full 72 hours to allow the Suboxone to get out of your system before you could take another opiate. This is huge. This is a very, very big thing. I'm sorry, every once in a while I try to squirrel a little bit and see what's being said. People, the purpose of coming on here today was to really kind of hammer home just some of the points. I can't remember a better interview. Honestly, I can't. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody else or any of the other interviews that I've done, because they're always a fascinating snapshot to look at somebody's life in addiction. I'm sure you get sick and tired of hearing about me. So when I can bring somebody on here and they can tell you their story, the beautiful thing about all of these stories is the triumph that is attached to it. Very often, one of the things that happens anytime somebody tells a story about addiction in their life, there is a period of time that you hear the stories that are funny when viewed through the fact that we know this person survived and this person. So we hear the stories of, I was so wasted, I did this, or this. We didn't hear that yesterday. And I think that's a brilliant snapshot. This was an individual who didn't abuse drugs. This is an individual who got addicted to drugs, but there was never a period of time in Rip's life where he was abusing the substance in a partying fashion. And I use partying, people. It's just a word that has, gained so much traction that I use it almost ubiquitously to talk about drug use. It's the wrong word to use, obviously. But there was never a period of time. You didn't hear him describe anything yesterday about the great times he had while getting wasted. And it really was a beautiful thing. Hello, Derek. It was a beautiful thing because this is a perfect indication of the fact that this affliction, right? This affliction of drug addiction. I came off heroin in '86. I fell last year from a ladder and shattered my heel. It was the most painful injury I ever had to deal with sober. I'm still trying to cope with the pain daily. My goodness. You know something? Oddly enough, no joke, I know 2 people that have shattered the heel for a period of time in my life. I don't know if you've seen all of the early videos that I did, but I was an extreme skier. So the kind of stuff that you see where people jump off of cliffs and they do things like that. I'm sorry. Wow, learn something new every day. I didn't know Suboxone was a fake pain. Guess I'll have to do more research. No, Suboxone is not a fake pain. It's a fake pain medication, right? It's not. And it's a terrible way to put it. But what it is do a little research, read about it, because it will give you the best. It'll do better than I do when you go and you actually read it. But it has never seen a poppy plant. It is a completely synthetic thing, and that's what I mean by the fact that this is not. It isn't by definition an actual opiate. It's not what it is. It's cataloged and categorized as one from a legal standpoint and everything else because of what it does to the receptors and what it does in the body. But it is not by definition. It has nothing to do with the poppy. It is a very different form of what the morphine molecule is in the body. It is completely different and absolutely worth researching. Back to the heel, I knew 2 people as skiers that did that from jumping off cliffs. And they have said, I believe it was Street Mom that said that, they said that it was just the worst injury in the world. And if you just think about it from a logical standpoint, you have to walk on that. And if you look at a video of somebody walking, obviously the first thing that happens in every step is that your heel makes contact with the ground, and then everything that goes on from that point, the arch bending down, the toes pushing up, all of that, it all starts on every single step. My heart goes out to you. That is absolutely unbelievable. It really is. I've made it this far without pain meds. Guess I can get through the healing part. I even have some and refuse to take no matter what. I respect that, Arizona Raven. I really do. And I'm not someone that demands that the entire world should never ever take a pain medication. I think that there are times where for people, if you break your femur in half, I think that there's probably a excellent time for the morphine molecule to do what it does. Where it really becomes an issue is when you're no longer treating pain. Opiates and pain medication, when pain is not when pain relief is not why that drug is being taken, pain relief still takes place. But what you're relieving is spiritual, emotional, right? psychological, all of those pains begin to get treated. And you get this feeling, and you hear people talk about it all the time, they get a feeling of almost being bulletproof. And obviously, there are a lot of jokes about Keith Richards, right? There's a lot of jokes about rock stars because so many rock stars overdose on heroin. And you hear people, speculate on it. I mean, I can tell you why that is. It's pretty cut and dry. Fear of going on stage is a legitimate emotion, right? Fear of performing in public is, yes, you can email me questions whenever you want, Vivian. I would love that. Absolutely, you can. Please reach out. I'm CaptainTommyScoville@gmail.com, but it's in the Dropbox. Mark is as well. Might want to fire questions at either or. Mark knows a great deal about Suboxone. One of the things that I can tell you people too is that coming up in the near future, we will have a doctor on here. I had asked if Suboxone was a painkiller, Captain. Oh, I didn't see that question. The buprenorphine is the drug in Suboxone. Buprenorphine was designed by a guy named John Lewis to be a painkiller for people that couldn't take morphine. There are a lot of people on this planet that are allergic to morphine. So they needed some kind of a pain medication for those people. And that was what it was originally designed for. My daughter broke her femur in half, plus the rest of her left leg. She was critical for 6 weeks. She was critical 6 weeks ago. Her and her husband have spinal cord injury from before. The femur is the largest bone in the body. God almighty. Thoughts and prayers out to your daughter. Honestly, that's just awful. Let me see this next one here in a second. I'm going to get back to that question, Raven. I'm allergic to anything synthetic. This, you need to talk to your doctor very specifically about Subutex, which is the version of buprenorphine that they give as a painkiller, because it doesn't have the Narcan in it. Narcan does some things. It also blocks some of its own effects, which is odd, but it works really beautifully for the treatment of opiate use disorder. For the treatment of pain, they usually go with buprenorphine without the naloxone additive, and that is called Subutex. It is a synthetic, and by that I mean it has nothing to do with the morphine. I mean, it has nothing to do with the poppy. It never came from that. So it is a synthetic, but it is a completely different family of synthetics than would be oxycodone or oxymorphone or any of the synthetics or partial synthetics that they use as opiate analgesics. It is completely different, and there are people for whom they can't take synthetics because they get an allergic type of reaction. Not all of those people have a problem with Subutex or with buprenorphine in general. So, but you would have to talk to a medical doctor. People, you guys didn't get the disclaimer at the beginning because I went live without my bobbleheaded partner in the back office where he usually is. I'm not a doctor. I'm a drug addict, right? I'm a drug addict that went to prison for robbing banks. I did everything stupid you could ever do. Nothing that I say can take the place of medical advice. What I give you is anecdotal, meaning this is the things that happened to me and how they worked in my life. I can also give you anecdotal stuff from a lot of people who I've worked with, but you need to, and this is across the board, people, I don't care what your problem is, whether it's drug related, whether it's anything related. There's a lot of great stuff on the internet, and the internet has given us the opportunity to discuss medical conditions, to research medical conditions. You got WebMD, you've got all of these things. Nothing takes the place of talking to a doctor. We're in the process right now of getting a doctor who's going to come on here, and you're giving us your experience, Tom. That's exactly what I'm doing. We have a doctor who has actually been watching the show, which is really cool. And this is not just a run-of-the-mill guy. I don't want to give you his curriculum vitae and tell you all of it, but it's very impressive. This is not just a doctor. He has been elected to boards, and he's really an amazing guy. And he would like to come on here and talk about some of this stuff. They all constipate me. That's the reason I stopped prescription pain meds. Most won't say that, but I know many suffer the same. And you know what? Whether it is synthetic, whether it is regular, meaning it's coming from the poppy, no matter what. I'm sorry, hold on one sec. You're going to get constipated no matter what. There's no getting around that. And that's really unfortunate. They are developing some opiates these days that they say are not going to cause constipation. What that really means is they're going to add some kind of really serious laxative to the opiate, because opiates will always cause constipation. It is just a fact of it, and it is an unfortunate one. I remember during my active addiction, and I'm not trying to gross anybody out, but this is anecdotal. This is what I do. I tell stories from my life. But honestly, if I had 6 bowel movements a month, it was probably pretty standard. It was really that bad. It's just something that really becomes part of that life, and it's awful. But it is definitely part of that that kind of thing. Really, it's I don't know what wild lettuce is. I have seen other people comment about it. I don't know what it is. Plus, I only took one kind a day. Doctor tried to have me take 3 kinds. So blessed I didn't take all that. He wanted you to take 3 kinds of painkillers? See, people, I hear things that just blow me away. We had a story from somebody on the lifeboat who was given Suboxone as a pain. This is another country, but they were given Suboxone as a pain medication at the exact same time that they gave them a regular opiate. Then what they did is they wrote down on the person's permanent file that they were allergic to Suboxone because of how sick they got. Now, this is just a doctor that has no idea what he's doing. I mean, truthfully, to give somebody buprenorphine and naloxone and give them a painkiller at the same time, I don't care who you are. You're going to get sick. And you're going to get sick for a really long time. But Raven, it is awful to hear that there was a professional that wanted to give you 3. Justin and Lucinda Roberts, good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Really good to see you. That's awesome. Hope you've been doing well. Wild lettuce has helped my dad. I think he makes a tincture with it. Honestly, once again, I have no idea what this is. So it's not lettuce, I assume. If you're making a tincture out of it, it's not a form of regular, like the stuff we have with salad. I'm way off base, right? I know nothing about this, people. I don't know anything about wild lettuce. However, if it has properties that make you, that are psychoactive in any way, I probably will spend a little time studying it. Sorry. Curiously strong mints. Wild lettuce is a weed. Can you give me a little more to go on than that? Does it have properties that do things in the body? This is not the first time wild lettuce has been brought up in a live chat. That's why I was asking. Yes, it is a plant. It has a sap, a white sap to it. Yes, 30 milligrams of oxy 20 milligrams, 25 methadone. Oh my Lord. That is insane. That is insane. People, real briefly, because yesterday we talked about clinics. And the majority of clinics that dispense buprenorphine on a daily basis also dispense methadone. And it has been the model for a long time to force individuals to show up every day and be given their medication. They wait online. You heard this described by Rip yesterday in great detail. He really did a beautiful job, not just of describing how it happens, but the emotions that are attached to it. And the theory behind, I've never heard of wild lettuce either. Sounds interesting. Yeah, I'm going to research it. The principle behind, I only took 10 milligrams methadone though once a day, thank God. Yeah, and 10 milligrams is a low dose of that, which is good. The thing with methadone is its half-life is so much longer than any other opiate. The reason that they give it is because Lactuca virosa is a plant in the Lactuca genus, often ingested for mild analgesic and sedative effects. Seventh son, well done. I will do a little research because that sounds interesting. Truly a great show yesterday. I will agree with you 100%, and that is all rip curl. I did almost nothing yesterday. I was enjoying the ride the same way you were. That's the way the interviews are supposed to be, honestly, where I just sort of get to sit back just like you do and, hopefully ask some of the questions you might have. The thing with Rip was he didn't need a whole lot of, he answered everything. That's why you took the methadone. Correct. And it's one of the reasons that methadone is a great painkiller. If you're going to be on long-term pain management, methadone is a great painkiller because it builds up in the body and you get a lot of the analgesic effect of the opiate, and it lasts so long. And it's also hands down the cheapest way to treat pain on the planet. There are generics. Dolphine was the doctor said it was for bone pain, probably even better. One of the complaints that people have is that it tends to concentrate itself in the bone. So that would make a lot of sense if that's what the doctor was doing. It didn't work for me. I'm not saying that, as a way to, but I wasn't taking it as a long-term pain medication either. I was taking it as a way to treat opiate use disorder. And the problem for me was that I had no problem mixing it. I could mix that with every other drug. Doctor said it was for bone pain originally. I could mix that with other drugs. So it ended up being one of those things that I took, but still managed to use at the same time. It just kept me from getting sick, but it still allowed me to go and party and do what I did. And that's, for me, that was just a bad situation. I wasn't somebody that could control that. There are people who can, and it works great for them. Anecdotally, me, not a good option. For me, it was a nightmare, and it almost got me to swear off of medical-assisted treatment altogether. Thankfully, I didn't, and had the opportunity to eventually, down the road, when I tried to quit again, and I went with medical-assisted treatment, I went with buprenorphine. And for me, I only take allergy meds and or Advil, but only when needed. I think it's probably a pretty good thing to take medication only as a doctor advises. But I think that one of the great takeaways from yesterday was that when you go to see a doctor, there is a team whose job it is to see that you get better. And that team, you are the person that is, you're running that team. Seventh Son just said, what about the Suboxone shot? It is not a Suboxone shot, Derek. What it is a Narcan shot, right? It is a naltrexone shot. I have never done it. I've never done it. I know people that have. Here's what that does. That is to opiates what Antabuse was to alcohol. You get a shot that lasts 30 days. During that 30 days, you cannot take opiates of any kind without getting very sick. You have Narcan coursing through your body for an entire month. So it makes it so that an individual cannot, it makes it so a person can't take any other opiate. And that's what that is designed to do. What it does not do is coat the receptors of your brain the way that Suboxone does, buprenorphine does. My husband used to steal my meds. I finally caught him and took him to rehab immediately. I was so mad, but understood he was in pain since 17 and didn't know there was relief. Arizona, I don't know if the word enlightened is the right word, but you are an individual that probably reacted to that situation far different than other people would have. And I think that that's beautiful. My body, back, tail hurts. I was on it for many years for methadone. I take tramadol 25 milligrams, half of a 50. I can't handle my brain under narcotics anymore. I have 2 sole providers. One watches over pain. PCP. Penicillamine? What? Over pain. Prescriptions, I bet is what that is. There are people who have had amazing results with tramadol. I cannot talk to you intelligently about tramadol. Unfortunately, I can't. There was a comment that I saw from Seventh Son, and now I don't see it. Here we go. Nope. I don't know if it disappeared because I saw it on the screen, but you talked about being given 3 medications, one of which was Stadol. Primary care physician. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I thought, I went to PCP. That scared the hell out of me. I thought we were talking about wet, or water, or, all of those things. Primary care physician. Thank you. People, I struggle with this all the time because everything now is one of those abbreviated things. Thank you, Kathy. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. Truthfully, I'm an idiot. If you knew how often I go, Siri, what does BRB mean? Be right back. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Kiss Freak, good to see you. So, what it really comes down to every single time, what it really comes down to is, and I squirreled away from this, but I really want, this is the takeaway, I think, one of 30 really important takeaways from yesterday's interview. What I think Rip did that is going to benefit the world, I really think this will benefit the world, is that pain treatment, drug treatment, anything. Thank you, Miss Hermit Hill, Kentucky. Thank you. All of these things, there is a team involved in this. And the captain of that team is you. And if you don't advocate for yourself, no one is going to. Honestly. So when you go and you talk to your doctor, I think that because of the amount of time doctors spend becoming doctors and because of the amount of education they have, 2 things happen. We tend to treat them as if they're infallible. And in many cases, they begin to feel that way. They know so much about the body that sometimes there is a OxyContin, methadone, and Stadol. Were you getting Stadol in a spray, Seventh Son? Were you getting that in a nasal spray? I'd be curious to know. But you have to advocate for yourself. And there are doctors who get God complexes. It is an issue. Like this is an actual thing. It's discussed all the time in the medical community. And it has to do with the amount of education and the amount of things that, that they study and that they learn. And they get this sort of control over the, the happenings of the body, or the belief that they do. And because they treat people and save them, no spray Stadol. Very, very dangerous stuff, Seventh Son. I had an issue. There was a period of time where I could get that in almost unlimited quantities, and gotta go. We'll rewatch later. Vivian, I really enjoyed having you here. If you have some questions, please reach out and send an email to me. I would love to correspond with you and answer any of those questions. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Hung out for a long time too. Listening to me for 45 minutes is impressive. The nose spray Stadol is a dangerous. It's a dangerous drug. All opiates are dangerous drugs, but there is something about the nose spray that keeps people doing it more than they need to. Yep, sent to pain management, and he was such a yes, he was okay. He was such a jackwagon that I chose to quit. That's good. It happens a lot. I'm 70, grateful for another day. My son reached me from prison last night. It's been 2.5 weeks. He said they are starving. He's been a meth addict for 21 years. Mother in me wants to panhandle $1,000. Kathy, I know that this is personal stuff, and is he in federal or state prison? Do you know? To bail. 11,000, I have to say. Okay, so he's in jail. He's not in prison or anything else. Kathy, do me a favor. In the Dropbox is my email address. He's in state. In the Dropbox is my email address, CaptainTommyScoville@gmail.com. There is a group of people I would like to put you in contact with. That this is Immediate high Stadol gave. Yes. And I will get right back to that. Kathy, please reach out to me. There's a group of people I'd like to put you in contact with. Great people. Great people. In fact, I was talking to one of them this morning. Salt of the earth. Just one of the great women ever who felt exactly how you feel right now and started a group. And they do an awful lot that you need to plug into. So shoot me an email. Yes, one of the things about Stadol is it is given very often for what is called breakout pain. And breakout pain is exactly what it sounds like. You know, a lot of times people live with pain around the clock. That's why you go to a pain management. This isn't, I just had my teeth out, you know, and in a week it's going to heal over and we're going to be good. These are people who from trauma in their life, physical trauma in their life, will have to have some kind of pain management for either the rest of their life or for a long period of time. For those individuals, even who live at a base level of pain, there are times where something will exacerbate it. You sit the wrong way. You spend an hour and a half driving in a car, whatever it has. It's been so quiet for 2.5 weeks. And I'm sorry about that. I know. All I can tell you is from having been an inmate, it's killing him too. It really is. It's killing him too, and it's an unfortunate thing because they feel the pain that you're feeling, and they feel the guilt for causing that pain, which is something that is an experience that is difficult on addicts, and that's a painful thing. So, as I was saying, people, if you don't advocate for yourself, if you're not an advocate in your own treatment, then the things that are going to happen to you are, it's the worst possible case scenario. It really is. It's the worst possible case scenario, because what's going to happen is there are the treatment that you're going to get. We need to trust our doctors, and we almost need to trust them implicitly, right? Because you have to follow what a doctor tells you. When you're in his care, if you say, well, I'm going to agree to do this, but I'm not going to do that because I think he's missing the mark. If you find yourself in that situation, then you need another doctor. And it really starts with a relationship and a trust. And if we've learned anything on the lifeboat, it's that relationships and trust are built. They're not, given. This is something that is earned on both sides of the equation. And the way that happens is always through good communication. So saying to a doctor, here's, what's going on with me. And if they say, well, this is what I want you to do. And you can say, it doesn't sound right to me. Very oftentimes they can explain to you why. But if you feel like what they're telling you to do doesn't make sense, you have to tell them that. And if they can't make you understand what's going on, or if it seems like a doctor who's writing you a prescription for 3 different pain meds, that don't make a lot of sense when mixed together. One of the nice things about the internet is that you can research the things that doctors tell you. I would encourage everyone to do that. Become an advocate in your own care. Regardless of what that care is, you need to be an advocate for yourself. And there are doctors who love this. There are doctors who want you to be a very active participant in your own treatment. Before I went off the deep end, I had a pain management clinic that I went to. And I did trigger point injections where they injected Novocaine directly into the spine. And it would treat you for the 8 hours that Novocaine numbs the spine. The second time they treat you, if you get 8.5 hours or you get 9 hours, then what's happening is you're getting more relief than the actual analgesic, and it means you're a candidate. But I used to go in 3 or 4 times a week for those injections, and each time they would last a little bit longer. I also did acupuncture. There were so many different things I did because this doctor was actually interested in treating my pain. It wasn't just, I've been an advocate for a veteran. And you know something, Raven? I was actually going to say this. There are people who now almost act as professional advocates. There are people who do advocate on behalf of others because there are individuals who find it very difficult to advocate for themselves. If you're one of those people, then find a Raven. Honestly, find someone that you can bring along with you and say to the doctor, you know what, I've been talking to this person about this, and this is what, I want them to be here with me. This is your treatment. This is your treatment. It's not the doctor's treatment. This is your life, it's your health, and it's your treatment. And you have the ability, no, you have the responsibility to take a very active role in your own treatment. And I think that really is one of the biggest takeaways from a video that had so many takeaways. I mean, that interview yesterday, there were so many just amazing things that you could take away from that. We got about 5 or 6 minutes left on this live feed. I could spend that entire time talking about just how impressed I was with the interview that Rip did yesterday. There was so much that that people can take away from that. There's so much that people can learn from that. I was looking at a pain manager to get ready ahead of surgery. He had these people signing to pay for everything over the Medicare payment. I thought, I will get this guy. I was looking at a pain manager. You know what? Assemble a team of people that you trust, right? It really is so important, people, that you are your own advocate. It really is, what a great takeaway from yesterday. And you heard, if you listened to the entire interview yesterday, you heard how even when he was doing everything right, following the rules, passing his drug tests, going to sessions, in fact, trying to go to extra sessions, he was in a place that just wasn't a good fit. He didn't do anything wrong. He was in a place that was a bad fit. If you're in a place that's a bad fit, you need another one. I've done that before when a doctor was rude to me. The doctor was rude to me and wouldn't give me Embrel for my psoriasis. When my friend came with me, everything changed. Well done, Miss V. Great comment. A lot of times that's all it'll take. You kind of have to view this. We've all had jobs, right? There's very few people that are listening to me that haven't had a job. And it doesn't matter what the job is. There are days you go in there, right? If you build things, if you're a carpenter, if you're a plumber, if you're a whatever, there are days you go in where you think, man, I don't want to be here. Doctors have those days. And on those days, we're just an assignment in a long list of assignments that they need to get through in the next 8 hours. And just like if you're working, doing anything, and you start to, you're building and you're having one of those days, and somebody walks by and starts watching what you're doing, regardless of the day that you're having, you're probably going to step up your game. And I think it's the same way with doctors. When it's one-on-one, they tend to lose the bedside manner. But if you bring somebody with you, it does change the situation. And if you find yourself in a place where the doctor seems like they don't have your best interest at heart, having an advocate with you is great. Getting a different doctor is great. I know that with the healthcare system the way it is now, it's not always easy just to grab another doctor, but it's essential. I pay $5 for a specialist if they even bother to collect it. That's awesome. If they have straight Medicaid, it's 20% out of pocket. Choose a Medicare Advantage plan, and those co-pays are minimal. Arizona, thank you. Those are the kind of, honestly, people, these are the kind of things that, really do benefit when people read them. Thank you, Raven. This medicine, when I first started taking it, changed my insurance, $4,000 a month. Oh my word! You hear about some of the medications and some of the treatments when big pharma has to recover the money that they put into research before something goes generic. And I'm not going to say the name of the drug because they actually advertise. They're one of the few people that will advertise on the lifeboat, so we won't beat on them. But there are ways to treat hepatitis C that is a once a day kind of a treatment, and it can take up to 80 days, and it can be $1,000 a day, which is just astounding if you think about it. At 19 was my first factory injury shoulder. They found injuries from a 17-year-old. I rolled over a car 7.5 times. Wow. They covered, straightened out my neck, put the shoulder hurt sewing leather coats. Oh, my word. Rolling a car 7.5 times. It's like NASCAR. That's hard to wrap my brain around. It really is ridiculous. Thank God you're alive, huh? Walking away from an accident like that, God had something in store for you, obviously. 2 of my meds, allergy and asthma, are thousands each a month. I'd be doomed without an Advantage plan. Good stuff, people. I hope that you were listening to what Raven said. One of the things, 2 in the air. Yeah, that's NASCAR right there. My goodness. Must have been going 100 miles an hour. People, another video. M. Hunt. Boy, I talked about you a little earlier and about the... my heart goes out to you, bud. It really does. My heart goes out to you. I know that this is a very difficult time for you. Skin has been really inflamed. I feel like a phoenix, a bird about to pop up and go into flames. It's a good visual image. I get that scene from Harry Potter in my head. But M. Hunt, you're in my thoughts and prayers, as are the brothers and sisters of that poor family. That's heartbreaking. It really is. It's heartbreaking. And I wish that there was more that I can do, but you're in my thoughts and prayers. And my email's in the Dropbox if you ever want to reach out to me. If you feel like you need to talk to somebody, I'm here. So, people, I'm going to be going live again tonight. I will be doing a live at the normal time, which is 6 o'clock here on the West Coast. I will have my partner with me on that. We're going to be doing our normal stuff, but there was just so much from yesterday that I really felt the need to come back and talk about. Yes, I sat there in the mud. It was a hit, a semi head-on, or one in the end. They said I'd stopped to talk. I heard past them on the right. Only 35 miles an hour. It was raining. My goodness. Thank God you are alive. You know what, M. Hunt? The way you just said that is beautiful. It really is, people. Before I leave, I hope everybody saw that comment. He said, "You are all lifesavers. Don't stop." People, you are all lifesavers. The way that you all support one another is unique and it's beautiful. And it's a daily reminder and a daily reinforcement that this is important, and that what we do on the lifeboat is an important thing, and it helps a lot of people. It benefits a lot of people. So please continue to do what you do. Keep being kind to one another. Keep reaching out. And tell you what, if you didn't share yesterday's video, please do, and never quit quitting. Between now and tonight's video, people, you know what I want you to do. I want you to reach out and try to save somebody. It is what we do here. Alrighty? I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. This was The Lifeboat. We will see you this evening. God bless everybody. Bye-bye. What do you say, squirrel? There we go.